Hey there, welcome to Karcher Makes, and today we are talking all things Tourdefleece. I was able to spin every single day during the men's Tour de France portion of the program, except for the second rest day, which I did take a little resty that day. I did do something fiber related. I read through one of my Ply magazine subscriptions, so it was sort of fiber adjacent, but I did spin every other day minus that. Now, the men's Tour de France race finished yesterday, Saturday, July, I think yesterday was the 26th. Yes, 26th. But the women's just started. So although I'm not completely finished with my Tourdefleece sock spin project, I still have some time to get that done. The women still race until, I believe it's August 3rd. So still have a little bit of time to work through this project, and I'm almost halfway finished. So I created a video that went up about 3 weeks ago talking about my Tourdefleece plans and my preparations I was making for that. And the first thing that I needed to do was to get a languishing whip off my wheel. So obviously I finished that. And here it is. So this is 2 skeins, a full skein plus a little bit of a second skein of mixed BFL from Fiber Nymph Dye Works, and the color is called Grab Your Flannel. And I chose to do this as a 2-ply fractal spin, and as you can see, I need practice on separating my fiber more accurately. So this was kind of the first amount off of each of those bobbins. And then my second bobbin had quite a bit of fiber left on it. So what I chose to do was I just created a center ply ball, and then I did a 2-ply from the center ply ball. Not my favorite way to ply, by the way. I don't love center pull balls for that purpose. But I had some left over and I wanted to get it skeined up. So still turned out beautifully. Now, interestingly enough, this first one, which by the way, I took the time to label these. Pat on the back for me because I never ever do that. This is the first time I've labeled my handspun. But this came out to be about 270 yards, and then I used a grist calculator. So grist is basically the yards per pound, and that's a more accurate representation of how much yarn you have for projects. So I actually used the grist calculator, and I'll leave a link to the one that I used below. But this ended up being 1,361 yards per pound, and that basically calculated out to be about 270 yards, 90 grams, and it equals out to be a sport/DK weight. And I just feel like this turned out beautifully. Very happy with how this turned out. Now, I mentioned my second bobbin of leftover fiber from that project that I applied together as a center pull ball. The second bobbin must have been spun a lot less thick, a lot thinner, because this one came out to be 1,859 yards per pound, which is about a heavy fingering weight. And there's my kind of tag there. Now, could I use both of these in the same project despite the fact that this one's slightly heavier weight than this one? Sure, that's probably what I'm going to do. I don't know what this is going to be. Maybe a hat? Maybe a hat? I don't know. We shall see. But really love how this turned out. Mixed BFL is one of my favorite fibers to spin with. It is dyed over top of a multicolored BFL fiber. So this fiber, before it's dyed, it's like light grays, dark grays, charcoal grays, and maybe a little bit of cream, and it just allows the color to take very beautifully on that fiber. So next up, I really wanted to work through my sock spin project. So again, if you caught that prep video, I was waiting on fiber from Hip Strings, and conveniently enough, it came the day Tourdefleece started. So couldn't have been better timing. And the fiber that I chose, and this is also coinciding with a spin along that I'm doing with the Ply Spinners Guild. I am a member there, and they decided to do a sock spin, an opposing ply sock spin, as the project for this month, this issue of the magazine. So in any case, I purchased this fiber from Hip Strings. It is a Tussa bamboo silk blend, and it is so nice. Like, I can't say enough good things about this fiber. And it came in 3 colorways: slate, which is like a blue color, lemon, which is yellow, and then clementine, which is orange. And what I chose to do is, in that issue of Ply, they basically laid out how to go about doing the sock spin in a lot of detail, which, because I've never done a sock spin before, I really kind of appreciated that amount of like directions and how to go about doing this, and then combining what was in the magazine with what has been shared on the Ply Spinning Guild Zooms and videos. It was a very nice compliment, especially for somebody like me who's not an expert spinner, and I have never spun for socks before. So lots of good information there. But the first thing that I wanted to do was just kind of create a tracker page, and this is my making journal. So I wanted to create a tracking page of all the things that I needed to do. So obviously I wanted to finish that whip first. I needed to prep my fiber for the sock spin. I needed to create a swirled top on my hackle, and you guys are going to see that later in the video. I have footage of me doing that. I probably didn't do it perfectly, so please take with a grain of salt that, you know, I'm very much novice to this. I am not an expert. There are plenty of other people who have videos that are expert level at explaining things, but I'm at least doing it directionally correct, so hopefully that helps you, but you'll see that later. And then I needed to also spin the 3 colors. So before getting into that though, I am trying to be a more organized and better, I hate the word better because it's non-quantifiable, but I want to be a better spinner. And as a part of doing that, making samples is really important. So I made a tiny, tiny little sample skein, and then I made basically a control card, a sample card for my sock spin project. So I have all the information here about the sock spin, the fiber content, what I needed to do, and then I have a little sample of the single, and then also a little sample of the finished ply from that tiny little skein that I did, just to kind of sample and experiment with opposing ply. So let me just start with what opposing ply is, and it's kind of self-explanatory, but in case you don't know. So for this project, opposing ply, 3-ply socks, you basically spin 2 singles Z, which is normal. At least I feel like it's normal. I would normally spin my singles Z and then ply S. In this case, because it's 3-ply, 2 bobbins of Z, which I have here in the blue, and then 1 bobbin S, which is also here in the blue. And then when I go to ply these 3 together, they're going to be plied S. And what that does is, because this 3rd single is plied in the opposite direction, I'm not a physicist, but the physics of those opposing plies really make a strong, solid sock yarn that can hold up to, the wear that a sock would go through. Now, this is kind of where I'm at on this project right now. I have all 3 of my bobbins finished of the blue color, and then I just need to ply these together. Now, something that I learned about plying with opposing ply yarn. So, number 1, it's going to be very kinky curly when you take it off the nitty knotty. I saw that and I thought I screwed up my project. So let me just show you like the little tiny sample that I pulled off from my first attempt at doing opposing ply. This looks a hot mess. And what I realized is, number 1, it's going to be a little curlier because of that energy of the S plies versus the Z plies. So that's completely normal. But what isn't normal about my yellow, and you're going to see this in the skein as well, when I was plying this, I was also using a tensioned Lazy Kate for the first time ever. Let me just say this, I would be a terrible scientist because I have too many variables at once that I'm changing from what I'm normally doing, and that's probably not the best scientific experiment. But, so when I was doing the Lazy Kate for this, I had it sitting next to my wheel, and what I learned after this happened, this yellow skein that I made, what I learned after the fact by watching JK Fiber Arts here on YouTube, they explained when you have the Lazy Kate, you really want to put it behind your wheel. I had it right next to my wheel. You really want to put it behind your wheel off to one side so that you have a longer amount of the singles to better tension it. And even though I was using a tension Lazy Kate because it was so close, these singles were kind of bunching up as I was trying to ply them, and it basically turned into like very coily, kind of almost knotty mess. And I kept breaking singles as I was doing my yellow skein. I've since learned the error of my ways. Thank you, JK Fiber Arts, and I'll link them below. And I kind of made the next one a little better, and hopefully the blue will be better as well. But so here's the first skein. And then I also learned, again, with the Ply Spinners Guild, we were in our Zoom meeting, and what they shared there was finishing an opposing ply yarn is different than how you would finish like a normal kind of 2-ply skein. And I'm going to insert footage of me doing this because I look like a lunatic in my yard. If my neighbors were watching, I'm sure they're like, what is this woman doing? So what you want to do, because again, those plies are working together against each other, you basically want to do this like helicopter spin with the yarn, and that helps redistribute the energy of those twists, right? And this one is still, I'm going to show it a little closer here. You can still see it is very kinky and curly. I'm still going to knit with it. This is still going to go into the socks. Like, I am a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm trying not to be, perfect about it because, it's hand spun yarn. If I want perfect yarn, I'll just buy a skein of commercially spun yarn. But it's still a little kinky and curly for all those reasons I mentioned. And learning from this skein, though, going to the next color, which is the orange, I did a lot better. So again, same process, but I made the changes to hold the singles back And for me, it was on my left. I don't know if that's a material difference, whether it's on the right or the left, but I held the Lazy Kate I had back into the left when I was plying this. So this one came out much better. You can just kind of see the comparison, right? This one, you can still kind of see the kinks and the curls, and this one's like a little smoother. It's still probably a little overspun, but not as bad as the yellow. So like I mentioned, next up will be applying this blue together. Again, using all of those tips and tricks that I've learned to do it correctly, more correctly than I did before. And then the last piece of this project, and this has been like amazing learning experience for me. So the last piece of the project, like I already mentioned, calls for the creation of a swirled top, and they use the hackle for it. I think you could also use combs for this. I have a hackle, so I use the hackle. And I'll insert some footage here of me making the swirled top. And again, I just want to caveat it with, I'm not an expert. This is not the most perfect way to do it. I had a lot of waste that probably could have been avoided if I loaded less fiber onto the hackle as I was doing it. But all in all, I ended up with swirled top, and that's what matters. So I'll insert that footage here for you to take a look at, and then when we come back, I'll show you a better look at the fiber that I got off the hackle for the swirled top. Today for my sock spin, I'm going to be creating the swirled top that becomes the fourth color in this project. So as a reminder, the fiber that I'm using is this Targhee Tussa Silk Bamboo Blend from Hip Strings. And the colors that I have are lemon, clementine, and slate. So this fiber is very springy. Is that the word? Springy. And I've since split it, and you've probably already seen that in this video, but I've split all the fiber up, and what we're going to do is on my hackle here, we are going to make a swirled top that basically combines these three colors together to get a very unique fourth color to use in the socks that I'm going to be knitting. And I'm following along with this issue of Ply Magazine, the tension issue, and I'm in the Ply Spinning Guild, and this is our spin along project for this month. I'm new to the Ply Guild, so I don't know if they do it monthly or just by issue, but this is the spin along for this time. And in this issue, there's a whole tutorial about how to make the swirled top by Emily Wolschild. I think I'm saying that correctly. She actually came to one of our spin-ins for the guild and showed us how to do it in real time, which was amazing. But the magazine also has the reference too, which I'll be kind of looking at as we go. Okay, so now that we're ready to make our swirled top, I've gathered some supplies here. So obviously I have my hackle. This came from a Ukrainian artist on Etsy. My boyfriend had got it for me in 2017. It is signed on the bottom. And just one thing to note about some of these fiberprep tools, they are metal and they are very sharp. So I recommend that you get a tetanus shot if you don't have one. Very important, safety first. So I have the hackle. I have my Diz. This also came from Etsy. It's made out of what I think is maple, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember the artist that made this. And then I just have my threader. I think this came with something that I bought from Ashford. I don't remember though. But there's a threader. So all we're going to do is take our comb top here, and I have all 3 colors, and we're going to load it in layers on this hackle and then diz it off so that it very lightly blends the colors. So let's get started. As far as color order goes, I'm not very particular about that. I'm probably just going to do it in this order, probably. I don't know if I want the orange and blue next to each other, although in the grand scheme of things, it's going to get spun together, and even though it's going to be swirled coming off, as I'm spinning it, it's going to blend more. So I'm not sure the color order is that materially important, but we're gonna find out. So to load the fiber, you just very simply lash it on across the top and then down. And hopefully you can see that this is why these little pegs are so important, because you're really kind of tugging on it and you don't want this to move at all. You want this to be very stable. But I'm just gonna go through, and I'm going to probably speed this up because otherwise we will be here all day. But I'm just gonna load my fiber on. I'm gonna lash this on. And then once I have it all layered, we're going to use this and diz it off to make our top. So you can see here how this is all layered on, and I just did basically a mirror, orange, yellow, blue, yellow, orange. And what you will find as you diz this off, there will be a little bit of waste. So some of the tiny little bits aren't gonna make its way into the roving. That's expected, that's fine. And what I do is I keep all those little bits, and the idea is maybe one day I can take all the little bits and then make a bat out of them. But let's go ahead and diz this off. So I'm gonna use the largest hole on this diz. They typically come with several different size holes. And the way you wanna do it is you wanna have the concave side towards the fiber. So I'm gonna first just tease out a little bit, and you really kind of have to pull this. This takes a little bit of arm strength, but I'm just gonna feed that little bit through there. Oh, and I'm doing it backwards. Let's change that concave side to the fiber. So it basically makes like a little funnel. So the goal is to get this off in as big a piece as possible. My goal is I don't want too many individual pieces to have to then spin back together. So the more I can get off of here, the better. And this is where you really have to be aware of your staple length, because if you pull too much, too hard, obviously the staple length, if it's a short staple, you'll go beyond that and it'll break. So you really want to kind of be mindful of what your staple length is. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. You can go kind of up and down as you go across. You can go across and then back and then across. It's really what you want to do. And that's kind of the beauty of making your own top, is that you have that creative freedom to make it however you want. And you can even just see here, right, how it's starting to lightly blend together. And I just think that is so pretty. see right here, I broke the fiber off, so much for the plan to have a long strand. But you can really see here how this looks. It's very, very pretty. I love these colors together. So I'm just gonna keep going, try to get as much of this off as possible, and then we will be back to talk more about the spinning. So here's what I was able to get off of that first round of fiber on the hackle. And I think this is a pretty good job, considering this is not something I do quite often, and it's been a long time since I've used this hackle. But I am happy, and I cannot wait to see how this spins up. Now, I do have quite a bit of fiber left, so I'm going to probably repeat the process at least once, maybe twice. And everything that's left on here right now, this is going to be waste. I'm not going to try to like force it and pull this off. The staple length is way too short for this to really kind of be meaningful. But like I mentioned, what I'll do is I'll save this, and then it'll potentially go into a bat on my drum carder at some point. So hopefully you enjoyed that little clip of me attempting to make this swirl top. But all in all, I think it came out lovely. Yes, I had a lot of waste, and you know what? We just learned from that. Side note, I'm also learning how to quilt, and I kind of have the same problem there, where I'm ending up with a lot of waste fabric that over time you learn how to be more efficient and be, more accurate with how you're measuring and how you're doing things, and it's fine. But I ended up with all of this swirled top. Now, I have a lot of the yellow fiber left, so I don't think I split that as evenly as I could. So some of these have a lot of yellow in them, and then some of these are very much just orange and blue. So what I think I'm gonna do is try to divide these swirled top pieces up in a way that when I do the 3-ply, that the yarn comes out a little more kind of consistent with the color and has a little bit of each in each ply, so that when I spin it, it comes out a little more consistent and has all 3 colors in it. So like I said, I think the men's race for Tour de France / Tourdefleece ended. It was yesterday or today. I don't remember the exact date, but the women are still going. So I'm going to still consider this a successful Tourdefleece experience. Being with Team Jillian Moreno has been great. The Discord, you get access to a Discord server to chat with other people. And, the encouragement and just seeing what everybody else is making has been just so amazing. I've learned so much, and I really want to incorporate more spinning into my making time. And I still want to do a sweater spin. Like, that is my dream project, is to spin for a sweater. So that's going to be coming, but not before I finish out spinning and plying all of this stuff for my sock spin, and then I get to knit the socks. So make sure you subscribe to follow along with this hand knit sock project that's coming after Tourdefleece finishes. I make no promises on how well this is going to go. This fiber has me a little nervous, but we're all going to find out together how well this happens. So thanks so much for being here. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Like I said, make sure you subscribe to follow more crafty goodness and seeing how these socks turn out. And until next time, happy making.